you today?
Good.
Yeah. So you had mentioned you had some questions about where you would like to have your baby.
Sure.
Do you know what the options are?
No.
Do you know like what are some of the places where you can have your baby?
Yeah.
What do you know?
A birth center, a hospital, and different other places that I cannot think of right now.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, obviously you're well versed. You know a lot about different places where you can have your baby. And yeah, I totally want to talk about birth center and hospital birth, and you can have your babies at home. So, at a hospital, the good things at a hospital are that you will always have direct access to doctors. There's obstetricians and anesthetists there. If you decide that you want pain management during labor, there's people there that can help with that. They can give you pain medications, or an epidural, or anything like that if that's something you're interested in. They have lots of pharmaceutical options for pain medications. They have different medicines there. And in the event that there is an emergency, which is rare, but if there's an emergency, you're already at the hospital, so that's convenient. Most hospitals will want some kind of IV, or at least they will want a Heplock. If you don't need an IV for any reasons, they will still want to start an IV. And so you'll have that catheter in your hand. Some people like that, knowing that that's all ready to go, and some people just find it really annoying to have this thing on their hand that's taped on there that they can't get wet and things like that. And if you're having your baby at the hospital, there's no guarantee that your doctor, the one you've been seeing the whole time while you were pregnant, that doctor might not be there, because most of the time they will have staff that are on call. So if you go in, say, on a Wednesday night to have your baby, your doctor might not be there. It might be a different doctor. If sometimes at the hospital they will want to do fetal monitoring, which is where they want to listen to the baby and pay attention to the baby. And what that means is on your belly they will have monitors, and they will have one listening to the baby constantly, and they'll have another one for you. And that can be a really good thing, just reassuring you that the baby's okay. But if you're in labor for 2 days, having these monitors on you constantly can be really annoying. And sometimes those are on cords, so that means that you're stuck kind of by your bed. You can't just walk around, you can't walk down the hallway. Sometimes they'll have a wireless system so you can go down the hallway, but you definitely can't go outside, you couldn't go walk around the block or anything like that. What else about hospitals? You will not know your nurses that will be there. They're there to help you. They're there to do their thing. But you won't know them. You won't have met them before your labor. And in the hospital, sometimes the doctors, they'll want you to be laying a certain way when you're pushing your baby out, or they have different things that they like to do specifically. And sometimes it's that they like it, and sometimes it's that the hospital makes them do that. But sometimes there's not a whole lot of flexibility. Okay, so that's hospital birth. Let's talk about, you want to talk about home birth or birth center next?
Sure.
Which one, home or birth center?
How about home?
Home? Okay. So, do you know very much about home birth? Well, you were here when your 3 brothers were born. So, some of the good things about having your babies at home is you are familiar with your environment. you know your house, you know your neighborhood or your yard. So that can just be comforting, just to be at home. You can be in almost complete control over who will be at your birth. Like your doctor or your midwife that you've been working with, unless there's like a real big emergency, your midwife is going to be there. And if you have a doula or family members, if you can say, I'd like to invite the other siblings or grandma or anybody like that, they could come, and that they would be welcome there. And at home, there's just kind of less interventions. When you're at home, you just do your thing, do what your body's telling you to do. And when you are having your baby at home, you don't have to worry about when to leave to go to the hospital. So sometimes people are not really excited about being in labor and having it be really intense and you're working really hard, and then you have to go get in a vehicle and drive. So if you're having your baby at home, you don't have to worry about that. And usually when you're at home, you just have a lot more freedom. You can move about, you can eat when you're hungry. If you need to take a break and go rest, you can go just crawl in your own bed and take a nap. You can, if you feel like being outside, you can go outside, or if you need to just get your body moving, you can go walk down the block and things like that. And the midwives will still be checking on your baby, but it will just be, they'll have either Doppler or a fetoscope, something that they can just put on your belly and just listen and say, yep, baby's still doing okay. So it doesn't have to be all the time. When you're at home, you can be guaranteed that your baby will not be separated from you. That you will, that you'll always all be in the same room and stuff like that. And it just kind of tends to allow better bonding. You can fall in love with your baby, and it'll be wonderful. Some of the downsides, or some of the extra things about home birth, is you have to prepare a birth space. So you kind of have to figure out if you want a birth tub. You'll need to rent that and figure out where to set it up, and get the hoses and get all of that kind of stuff figured out. And a lot of times your midwife will want you to purchase a kit. So you'll get on a website and order, and a box of stuff will come to your house with supplies and stuff that you might want or that the midwife might like for you. And in case of emergency, if there is an emergency, which is rare, but if there is an emergency, you're still going to have to drive to the hospital. So, do you have any questions about that? Okay. You ready to talk about a birth center? Okay. So a birth center is kind of both the hospital and the home birth kind of together. So a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's a home-like setting. So there's a birth center here close to us. It's about 10 minutes away. You can go there and you walk in, and instead of going to like a doctor's office, it feels like you're walking into a bedroom. There's a bed, it's made, there's a quilt and pillows. Most of the time a birth center will have a big, nice birth pool or bathtub, just a real big bathtub already set up. So that's all there and ready to go. So it feels like a home and not like a hospital room. They'll usually already have a birth tub set up, which is easier than having to do it at home if you were setting that up at home. There's no concerns about, cleaning up or anything like that at a birth center. You would be in labor. You would have to get in your car and drive to the birth center in labor. But then once you got there, you can labor there, you can have your baby there, and then you hang out there for usually 4 to 6 hours after the baby's born, because the midwives like to watch you and watch your baby and make sure everything is okay. But then you have to drive home after that. You have a lot of the same freedoms that you do at home as far as just your choices. Usually you can eat or sleep or, walk around. You can push in whatever position you want usually. And your baby's not going to be separated from you. It's not a big hospital. It's just kind of one room usually. there's a very good chance that your care provider, your midwife that you've been working with, is the one that will be there, or you will at least have met her or him before. And there's just kind of less interventions than there is at a hospital. But like I said, you have to travel there in labor. So you'll labor at home for a while, and then you'll get in your car and drive to the birth center. And again, if there's an emergency, you're still gonna
Have to go to the hospital.
Still gonna have to go to the hospital, right? Something else that I get questions about when you're trying to decide where to have your baby is how much they all cost. How much does it cost to have your baby at the hospital or at home in the birth center? And my answer to that is it just totally depends. It depends on what your insurance will cover, if you have insurance, and a lot of midwives' prices are different. Sometimes insurance will cover it, sometimes you just have to pay for it, and the same with the birth center. Sometimes part of your insurance will cover it, or all of it, or none of it. You just have to call around and find out that information. So, did this help? Did this kind of explain some of those differences? All right. Well, let me know if you have any more questions that I can help you with. Do you have any questions right now?
No.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. All right, La.